Hey there. I want to talk a little bit about anxiety and how we treat anxiety and how my anxiety and the way I was coping and dealing with it, unbeknownst to me, was slowly killing me. And it almost did, as you saw from my very first introduction video about going through cirrhosis and liver transplant. I took that self-medicated treatment up to the limit, really. I'd always been dealing with anxiety probably since high school. I started getting little panic attacks here and there. I didn't know what was causing it. Nobody really talked about anxiety. It felt scary and horrible, at times you're like, oh, I can't breathe, or I thought something was wrong with me, but nothing physiologically was wrong with me. And it was kind of mild here and there. And in college, I, like many people, discovered drinking. And I thought, whoa, this is cool. And it felt good. It was fun. Drinking's really fun when you first start out. And I noticed it really helped curb the anxiety. Alcohol has a way of making you feel outgoing and happy and euphoric, and it just knocked the anxiety away. So I really liked it. And by the time I was out of college and working professionally, I would have a couple cocktails every night after work just to relax and unwind. And I did that for years and years, and I was never a day, during the day drinker, or I never drank in the morning. I wasn't, so I didn't think I was like an alcoholic, right? Just in the evenings, a few bourbons. That went on. I got married, bought a house, had kids. Every night, get home from work, bourbon, have a bourbon, drink that, kind of relax, and then have another. And it got to a point where, it took more and more bourbon in the evening to get that, to achieve that feeling. And when you're in it, you don't notice it either, because when you get to that point where you need more, when you're not drinking bourbon during the day at work or living your normal life, your anxiety actually gets worse. Alcohol increases anxiety. I didn't know. I was just trying to get that happy, warm feeling every evening after work. And it got to a point probably right before COVID hit in 2020. I was drinking up to about a half a fifth a night of bourbon, that's a lot. I know it's not, as much as some of you, but it's still a lot for me. And then as soon as COVID hit, and we were in lockdown, work was closed. In fact, my work let me out early every day. I worked from home, and we had this thing where people with kids could use FMLA and only work 5-hour days for the next year and still get your same pay. So I was getting off at 2:00, and that's when I would start drinking. I wasn't drinking during work, but I'd just start drinking earlier. And then on the weekends, there was nothing to do. Everything was closed. So I would just stay home and, might as well drink. And I remember at the time too, there were commercials on, kind of making everybody's locked up, let's all get drunk. You have the wine moms, and there was one commercial, I remember, it was like for some major pharmacy, I can't remember which one, and the lady was walking down the aisle, and it was talking about how times are tough, and her kids are kind of stressing her out at the shopping cart, and she notices wine was 2 for 1, and she smiles and grabs 2 bottles of wine and clinks them together and puts them in her cart. And I thought, oh, that's funny. Everybody, yeah, we're all gonna stay home and drink. And that's what I did. Of course, kind of near the end of COVID, right as things were opening up, I noticed I was really starting to feel just awful. I remember I always get like really bad hand and arm cramps, like really painful. It felt like my whole hands and arms were in a vice, like getting squeezed. And I started, every morning I woke up and I didn't feel like super nauseous, but my body just threw up. I had to throw up in the morning. And I got bloody noses too. Little did I know those were all signs of liver failure. I felt really disoriented. I remember really close to being diagnosed. My wife would always have to drive. She's like, "What's wrong with you? Why, you're not doing anything around the house. You're just sitting there, and now I have to drive everywhere. What's going on?" And I didn't know. It happened so gradually. And I remember we were driving to a soccer game that's in the neighborhood, a few miles away, and I kept on looking around, and I was like disoriented. I was sober. I wasn't drinking at that very moment. I didn't have any alcohol in me, and I don't know, just hard to describe. It's kind of like you were in a disassociative, like you took some sort of disassociative drug, and you weren't quite there. And then, of course, I'd come home in the afternoon, and I'd pour a bourbon, and I'd feel a little better, but still, at that point, I was really just, oh man. And I was looking at pictures from me at that time, and my face was really puffy and red, and I had stuff all over my skin. And then one day I noticed I was looking in my rear view mirror, ironically on my way to go to the liquor store, and I saw my eyes, and they were kind of yellow. And I thought, so that's the lighting. The sun's low in the atmosphere. It's kind of yellow. And I just put it out of my head. I worried, of course, but I kind of put it out of my head. Anyway, that got worse and worse, and it was a steep decline till one morning in 2022, July 7th. I woke up to go to the bathroom, and my legs just gave out, and I kind of slowly collapsed onto my butt in my son's bedroom. Thankfully, my kids were all gone at some summer camp or something. I can't remember. And my wife was in the kitchen, and I called for her. She was really worried. And I couldn't walk back to bed. And I crawled. I remember crawling on my hands and knees and hoisting myself and getting back up in bed. And I thought, oh, maybe I just need a drink or something. At that point, I thought, oh man, maybe I am like in withdrawal now, and maybe I'll have a drink and then call my doctor and get a hold of this and try to get off alcohol. Obviously, it's a problem. And my wife, she called my mom, and my mom's like, call 911 right away. She's like, really? And my mom's like, no, you gotta call an ambulance. So they called an ambulance, and I guess by that time my kids were home, and she had the neighbor come and grab the kids really quick and take all three boys across the street to play so they wouldn't see their dad getting hauled off in an ambulance. And I was kind of relieved when that decision was made for me that, okay, the ambulance is coming. Now I have to get checked out. Now I have to address all these problems. And I was in the ER forever. And I remember I couldn't pee. And they wanted a pee sample, and it took forever. And then when I finally did pee, it was super dark like Coca-Cola. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And they didn't know what was wrong with me, but I had really high heart rate, and I was disoriented, so they gave me some fluids. And then they found out, they did my labs, and they're like, oh, your liver's in bad shape, your kidneys are going into failure, and you have an infection. I was septic. So they rushed me to get a CT scan. I got that CT scan and went back. And mind you, I got there at like 3 p.m. Next thing I knew, it was midnight. Time dilation was a factor, but my wife was there, and they told her I had cirrhosis of the liver, and my kidneys were in really bad shape. And so they put me initially in the ICU because they didn't have room anywhere. This was still during COVID. I didn't even get to go to my actual hospital. They routed me somewhere else because my hospital was full. And they said, we're not letting you go. We have to keep you because you have this septic infection. Your liver is cirrhotic and your kidneys are shut down. So I spent 2 weeks in the hospital, and the doctors were amazing. I mean, they got me to a point where I didn't have the infection. My kidneys started recovering, and God, my kidneys came all the way back. Unbelievable. I'm so lucky I didn't have hepatic renal syndrome. That's really bad. So yeah, kidneys came back, but I was released 2 weeks later with an appointment to see a hepatologist, virtually, of course, because it was COVID time. And I came home and I started feeling better and started recovering. And I remember my wife now says, she was worried if I would want to go start drinking again as soon as I got home, and I didn't. They told me in the hospital, you have cirrhosis, you can never drink again. If you drink again, you're gonna die. And that's all I needed. Never touched a drop of alcohol ever again. That July 6th was the last time I drank. So that was enough for me. I'm very fortunate in that it didn't have such a grip on me that I still drank despite that. But everybody's different, and for those that continue to drink, I can't judge you. But quit, met my hepatologist, the best. I lucked out. He was the best, and he basically laid it out for me, a game plan. And he was like, I'm a football fan. I was like, this guy is the Bill Belichick of hepatologists. He had the game plan to get me through to win. I just remember I met him one time when he was doing my EDG, the scope to check for varices. And he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, I'm here to make you better. I said, all right. So, anyway, that's how I was diagnosed. My background, I'll go into what happened after I got home and my life between diagnosis and liver transplant in another video. But, I mean, needless to say, I made it. I'm here. I feel great. I have my life back 100% to what it was before I started drinking in my 20s, which is incredible. So stay tuned. I'll share that story. If you're watching this and you're in the situation I was in, I wish you the best of luck. Feel free to follow my journey, my story, comment, ask questions. Until next time.